evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
We kind of went through a crazy ordeal and COVID kind of pushed everything back with this. So without having the surgery, the number one issue is his speech.
You've been busy for sure. Since in the last year, we've made almost 4.5 million level 3 gowns.
It's not easy. I've been doing this for over 15 years. And one of my friends, she just called me 2020 out of the blue. I think we'll find a way out for you to be out there.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a Windsor mother. She's pleading with the province to resume non-urgent surgeries. Her 3-year-old son was born with a submucous cleft palate, which hinders his speech. He's waiting on a procedure that his mom hopes will improve his quality of life. But as Jason Vio reports, with Omicron putting the brakes on these kinds of surgeries, the family is unsure when that will happen.
Andrea Girardi's 3-year-old son Marco was born with a submucous cleft palate. It's an opening in the back of his throat not visible from the outside. He's been on a wait list for appointments and a surgery for the past 2 years. She says it affects the way he talks and sleeps, and it has left him with a cough and a constant runny nose.
I'm just extremely sad, and I'm extremely frustrated for my son because he can't communicate as efficiently as I think he would if he had that surgery. There's nothing more heartbreaking, I think, for a parent who knows that there's a solution out there and it's just out of reach.
Marco, say happy birthday.
A surgery date was scheduled in December, but the 3-year-old tested positive for COVID days before, so it was canceled. Now, because the province of Ontario has stopped non-urgent surgeries for the 3rd time this pandemic, she has no idea when it will happen.
This has been quite the ordeal, and you can imagine as a parent how frustrating it is to hear the words non-urgent when a surgery impacts the quality of life for your kid.
Growing wait lists for children's surgeries is a big concern for the Canadian Association of Pediatric Surgeons. President Dr. David Price says surgeons have spent a lot of time to determine when and what age a surgery is best for kids to give them the best possible outcome.
During these slowdowns, that is often thrown out. If children aren't progressing normally, as in their cohorts, or getting their appropriate care at the same time, there can be profound developmental dysfunction.
For Girardi and her 3-year-old son Marco, they're waiting for the phone to ring to hopefully get a new surgery date. Before that can happen, though, Ontario would need to resume non-urgent surgeries once again, something that's not planned yet, even as COVID restrictions are set to ease at the end of this month. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
It's been a week since a vaccine policy kicked in for truck drivers crossing into Canada. They need to be fully vaxxed or forced to quarantine. There was also turmoil and confusion over whether the mandate would go ahead when by error there was a statement that said Ottawa had backed down. But it went ahead last weekend, and it's raised concerns about staffing shortages and supply chain issues. I asked the Federal Minister of Transport about the impact so far, and he says any issues you might be noticing at the grocery store were already there before this policy kicked in.
We have not measured any significant or any measurable impact to date. And I've been speaking with retailers, with grocery stores since the implementation of the policy, just asking them, are they measuring any impact? Are they seeing any impact? And so far, we are not measuring any negative impact on the volume of truckers crossing the borders. So I also want to be clear, undoubtedly, there are longstanding supply chains issues. And some of the impact that some of us are seeing, including, by the way, rising prices, have been in place, have been happening because of the pandemic. And they've been occurring before the vaccine mandate for truck drivers. And it is precisely why we are mandating these vaccines for truck drivers. So we want to end the pandemic as quickly as possible, and we want to protect the truck drivers and other workers in the transportation sector who are doing this work so we can minimize absenteeism, we can minimize impact on the supply chain. And there were some critics who said, oh, this is going to cause significant job losses, it's going to have an impact on operations of the transportation sector. But I'm pleased to tell you that workers have stepped up. Workers in those sectors have stepped up. They gotten vaccinated. Those who were reluctant at the beginning or hesitant now gotten vaccinated. I suspect in the meantime, truckers who are not fully vaccinated and are waiting to get vaccinated, they are able to carry loads domestically. And just so you and your listeners know, we do have a shortage with truck drivers domestically. There's more back ordered or loads that are waiting for truck drivers today domestically than there are internationally, only because there is an ongoing issue with supply chain. And we believe that this mandate will further add reliability and resilience to it.
For some, starting a home-based business kept them busy during the pandemic, some even taking their cooking from their kitchens to cooking for the public. Now, it's not an easy process, but a few businesses in Windsor have been able to do just that by moving into a storefront in the last year and a half. Stacey Janzer has more.
It's not easy, but you have to have passion, your family's support, your community, and also believe in yourself that you can do it.
Her restaurant, Najia Food Eats, has been a long time coming. Flowery started cooking when she was 5. And although the passion was there, she went into social work. That was until she had a party catered.
And it was not done properly. Before the end of the night, the food got spoiled. So my friend was like, you know how to cook. Why are you giving this out to people to do? I was like, I can't do everything myself. I said, yeah, we know you can do it. That's what actually brought that out in me, that it's about time.
With a little help from a local incubator in the downtown accelerator, she was able to bring her food to the downtown farmers market.
We're there for 1 year, and from there, we got this new beautiful place.
She got help from a food incubator called Cook Up. It's been around for about 2 years and helps people develop their passion for food into a business.
And the inspiration came from, imagine if these businesses had the tools and the resources to actually grow their business into something that their kids could one day inherit, that could become, the next product at Costco.
They help startups with business coaching, helping them with contacts, building a social network for support, and their biggest draw is the affordable shared kitchen space. Because unless you have a second kitchen that's been inspected at your home by the health unit, you'll need to cook your food at a commercial kitchen.
So we started off by looking for a commercial kitchen, which was a struggle for us in the beginning because there isn't really places that you can just rent a kitchen, and it was COVID, so people didn't want random people in their spaces.
Myers and her mother started at home too. Their charcuterie board business began at the start of the pandemic, and soon they expect to open their doors to walk-ins at their store on Tecumseh.
It was really hard because we weren't sure where to start. We weren't sure, how do we go about our license? Who do we contact for insurance?
If you're looking to develop into a business, there are plenty of resources. Cook Up and Invest Windsor Essex. For safety, there's lots to learn on the health unit's website. So before those hot muffins get out of the oven and into the public's hands, you'll want to make sure everything is up to code. Stacey Janzer, CBC News, Windsor.
Call it the pandemic pivot. Many manufacturers in Windsor Essex did just that, switching gears to respond to needs created by COVID-19. They're producing items like hospital beds, ventilators, and no-touch thermometers. The local Chamber of Commerce says dozens of businesses have made this switch and says while the pandemic will eventually end, these new jobs are here for the long haul. Dale Molnar reports.
This Harbor Technologies factory in Oldcastle pumps out medical-grade masks and gowns. The company has always manufactured for the auto industry, but in 2020, they answered the call to produce PPE for the medical field in Canada.
Well, in the last year, we've made almost 4.5 million level 3 gowns. That's for the federal government. We're supplying some of the big healthcare distribution companies, and we've been selling masks as well. over 1 million masks. John here is manually welding a gown using an ultrasonic machine.
Scott McNish says they have 4 factories producing the PPE along with subcontractors. They also make the machines to produce the PPE. It has created around 600 jobs. He says manufacturing like this means Canada won't be as dependent on overseas suppliers.
Like, we need this capacity domestically for the future. It's not there's no question.
Meanwhile, InterQuest Services in Harrow usually makes electrical equipment, but they have added a new subsidiary to produce modular homes and mobile ICU units. The homes can be used to isolate at home if someone has COVID.
If you were in a lockdown situation for originally the 14 days and you wanted to still be, close to family, you could actually have this as a full living quarters.
The tiny homes can also be used for disaster relief, and ICUs can augment hospital capacity.
These things can be picked up and redeployed for remote communities or the Indigenous communities. We're anticipating taking our manufacturing process from a single shift to 2 shifts a day, possibly 6 days a week. So we would be doubling or tripling our workforce.
That could add up to 200 more jobs. The Chamber of Commerce reports there are 50 companies in the area that have pivoted to pandemic-related work. But even when the pandemic is over, the Chamber believes these businesses will have a market.
So that's what is really a bright spot for us here, that our companies are now able to supply to this industry, which, as we know, is an industry that is recession-proof. It's going to grow.
The Chamber of Commerce expects the production of products like this to continue and also expand in the Windsor-Essex area, further diversifying our economy. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Tecumseh.
And in more pandemic-related news, Windsor-Essex has lost another life due to COVID-19. According to the health unit, this latest death was a man in his 80s who was not a resident of a long-term care or retirement home. 126 people are currently hospitalized due to the virus, and 15 of those are in intensive care. A Windsor man is donating his kidney to a local 4-year-old boy who he barely knows. It's a gift motivated by a personal loss and a move being cheered on by his children and kids at their school. Several donned green shirts today to show their support for organ donation and this act of kindness.
Because he grew up with a sick kidney, so now he needs 1 kidney now, and then Dad will have 1, Carson will have 2.
My husband is donating a kidney. He actually just came out of surgery not too long ago. So in 2019, we lost my daughter to cancer. Joe's her stepfather. So we heard about Carson through social media, and Joe recognized that he was the same blood type. So he signed up to get tested to be a donor, just to, alleviate another family from having to go through the same, complications and suffering that we went through, right? So I guess we just have a different perspective on a child being sick, and we wanted to do something good, and Joe's such a selfless man that he went for it. Joe is so excited to be doing this for him, and I imagine the recipient family is just, I know they're just elated right now.
Make me proud and happy about my dad saving Carson's life, so made me happy when the whole school was wearing green.
It's been amazing. All the staff, pretty well the majority of staff and students are wearing green. And we've also told the teachers if they can talk about organ donation at an age-appropriate level with their classes, in the hope that the kids will then tell their parents about this, and it will bring a greater awareness of organ donation.
Just to know that there's so much love in this community, and to be part of, this is a small community on its own, right? But to be such a part of such a loving and supportive place, it's wonderful. And I'm sure Hayden and Juno feel just as loved. I'm sure he's going to be pretty dumbfounded once he wakes up and sees just how much it's gone through the community. And yeah, it's not scary to be a living donor. Like, if you can do it, go for it.
In the wake of a devastating fire in Brampton that left 3 boys dead, a community has rallied to help their mother. As the investigation into the cause of the townhouse fire continues, Chris Glover is learning more about the young victims.
I just keep thinking about the poor children and what their last moments might have felt like.
Crystal Mark is grieving the loss of her close friend's 3 sons. 9-year-old Alex with his infectious smile, 12-year-old Riley described as smart and observant, and 15-year-old Cohen with his witty sense of humor.
And I described them as delightfully rambunctious. They were sweet, good kids. It really is a tragedy when something like this happens.
One of the boys called 911 yesterday morning as their Brampton townhouse caught fire with them inside. Their mother, Heather, was dropping their 5-year-old brother off at daycare at the time. Brampton Fire says the 3 boys were pulled from the home and died in hospital. Peel Police said yesterday no charges were anticipated, and today the Office of the Fire Marshal says its investigation into the cause is only just beginning. The mom posting a heartbreaking message to Facebook overnight, saying she can't stop thinking about her 3 babies.
We've been friends for 15 years, and it's been a long road. And so this is really hard because I literally know her children from birth.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about how you're doing today.
It's weird. It's surreal. I didn't sleep well at all last night, and I'm sure very few people have who've been connected to this.
Especially at the boys' schools, where flags are at half-mast and counselors are helping support students and staff. Outside what's left of the home, a growing memorial. 15 years ago, Heather became a member of the Malton Moms. That community group is now behind a GoFundMe page for the single mother. Around $70,000 has already been raised.
It swells my heart because I know how much a tragedy like this leaves people feeling like, what can I do?
Heather's sister released a statement today to thank people for their support and comfort, thoughts and donations during this unimaginable time.
Definitely, it's the biggest struggle of her life. I know that she's going to get through this, and she'll get through this with family and with her friends.
An overwhelming amount of support in the face of overwhelming loss. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Just a gut-wrenching story there. A live look outside. Colette will be here. She will have all the details about what the weather is going to be like over the weekend. Stay with us. Welcome back. Gyms are set to reopen at half capacity by the end of the month, but that is not soon enough for some. Michael McDonald is burning off some energy with his skateboard.
Just being cooped up during this lockdown has got me going a little stir crazy, so I decided to go out and give her a little skate. Unfortunate, you can't go to the gym. I'm usually a regular at the gym up there, the Fit for Less, so I got all the straps and stuff. I've been working out at home, but it's not the same.
So what's it like skateboarding in January as opposed to skateboarding in the spring or the summer?
It's cold. It's a bit frosty out here, that's for sure.
So I suppose as long as there is no snow, he can keep it up until gyms open back up. And this is a good time to bring in Colette to find out, can he keep skateboarding?
Yeah.
What's happening?
I'm just thinking, though, as he's going, he provides his own wind chill. Like, that's the thing, right? When you're biking, running, skateboarding, it does make it feel even cooler. But he seems to be, the activity helps keep you warm. And in terms of answering your question, I think we're going to do pretty well. Some flurries kind of here and there. He looks like he can handle that. Winds are kind of the story as much as anything for our weather through the weekend. And okay, the story right now that there's not much of a wind chill because there isn't much of a wind, but that'll be changing. And so as we go into tomorrow morning, we'll start to see those winds picking up from the south to southwest and quite strong at times, gusts over 40 kilometers an hour into tomorrow evening. And the other reason that's important is that when we get behind that system and the cold front goes through, it changes the wind direction, but those stronger winds coming across the lake and then that front going through means we'll have some flurries at times. Now, they're really going to be intermittent for southwestern Ontario, but tomorrow do expect we'll have more cloud cover, and off and on you'll see some of those. So taking a look at those current temperatures and then enough of a wind chill to drop it down to -12 in terms of how it does feel right now. So mostly clear skies overnight. The little bit of cloud deck there, and you can see a few areas close to the lakeshore. Point Pelee getting a little flurry activity just because of the winds over the lake. But as we head to tomorrow, it really becomes more overcast. There's one bout of some flurries coming through. That's just late morning. Then again, we get a risk into the late afternoon and early evening hours. So that's the kind of thing it's going to be sort of intermittent like that. A trace likely would be all we'd see. Whole different story into the snow belt and areas there in the lee of Lake Huron where 10, 15, some cases locally, even 20 centimeters will be picked up. Good for the ski hills. Overnight tonight, this is a look at your temperatures. So the wind chill, still factor that in there, feeling like -20. And that really holds into tomorrow morning. This tends to be when we hit our low. Our daytime low is in those early morning hours. So if you're up and out the door early, you're going to feel that. Into the afternoon, this is what it looks like, -4 for our daytime high. So similar to today, slightly warmer. And then Sunday, -5. And we do have a system at the beginning of the week that may bring, again, a trace to a few centimeters coming through. Still kind of watching that one carefully, but not a big storm or anything like that.
Yeah, I know that some are hopeful, for snow, and they're looking forward to that Monday. So we'll have to see how much actually comes down.
Yes, yeah.
Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, when we come back, in a case of a divorce or separation, what happens to the pet? We'll tell you about what some advocacy groups are trying to get underway. Stay with us. The place of pets in a family has undergone a significant change over the years, but animal welfare advocates say family law hasn't kept up. When there's a divorce or separation, the law gives top priority to what's best for the children. Now there are calls for pets to get similar consideration. CBC's Sarah Leavitt explains.
The message from the Montreal SPCA, relationships die, but pets live on. And it's calling for a change on how they're treated in a breakup.
Currently, in Quebec, animals are treated like property in family law.
The same is true across Canada.
It's the person who purchased the animal or signed the animal's adoptions papers that will be entitled to keep the animal.
The SPCA wants the welfare of the pet to be considered, similar to how custody for a child is determined, something that makes sense to many owners at this dog park.
A pet is like it's a lot more than a car. I mean, you know, it's part of the family.
With children, there is a law to protect them. With dogs, anything can happen.
We certainly have not planned for it. Not that we're planning to change anything about our marital status.
This SPCA lawyer says a recent ruling in Spain sets an example. It's the latest European country to recognize pets as sentient beings, not property.
Panda es de los dos.
Lawyer Lola Garcia fought for her client's right to have some ownership of her dog after her ex refused to share following a breakup.
El vínculo especial de las partes.
She says emotional bonds should be considered. In the ruling, the judge granted joint custody of Panda, noting the dog's welfare played a role in his decision. At home, the SPCA's campaign comes as the province is in the midst of its first family law reform since the 1980s.
We have the perfect opportunity in order to fix this problem in the Civil Code of Quebec.
Until then, the SPCA says owners should be taking matters into their own hands. It offers its own animal custody agreement, a pet prenup, if you will. Statistically, you could stay with your cat longer than with your spouse, the SPCA says, so think ahead. Sarah Leavitt, CBC News, Montreal.
An animal rescue team in southern England found a unique way to save a dog lost in marshland. And the plan's success was hanging by a thread. Millie, a 3-year-old Jack Russell, had been missing for 2 days before rescuers using a drone spotted her. And with rising water, the team realized Millie could drown if they didn't do something soon. And that's when someone decided to dangle a sausage from the drone to lure her to safety. And the promise of food saved him. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend.